Remember Vice 10 years ago? Or Vice
Before
even
Vice-
longer than that? It was fucking
For
awesome.
the TV show, the TV channel.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Crazy ass shit that they were doing. And some of it's still good. Like I still subscribe to their stuff on YouTube and I watch shows every once in a while. They did a good one in Ukraine and so on and so forth. But a lot of it really fell into leftist social justice. It just became one of many as opposed to doing what it did really well. Not a huge surprise here. I'm curious if you guys have any thoughts on Waypoint closing.
I don't mean this as a dig, but I guess it comes off as one. I never really thought about them at all. And I'm not surprised looking at their YouTube channel where their podcast was getting 400 views. Then that's like optimistic as far as their view count. Most of them are 300. A lot of their videos under 5K. But like you said, it wasn't necessarily just Waypoint, but Vice in general being on a downward struggle. But one of those things where those types of numbers don't make something sustainable. So it is what it is, and I'll leave it at that.
I don't know what the place for these things are now that like a lot of the coverage of this space is kind of relegated to individuals and their own ecosystems. I don't know. I will say personally, like I'm just not a fan of Vice. So like I'm fine with this, but it kind of sucks for anybody who's sincerely like. Do we know if like are they being shuffled around or is everybody?
No, they're done.
I don't think so.
They're completely like people are just like jobless
they're
now.
Done.
Okay,
Yes.
that sucks for them. That's really bad. But I've never personally checked Waypoint ever.
Yeah, I feel bad for people losing their jobs, especially people I don't know.
Right.
I will say that one of their writers, Patrick Klepek, is a dickhead.
Oh yeah.
And I have no sympathy for someone who went way out of their way to character assassinate me. I remember, I don't know if you remember, they wrote a story about IGN's Palestine thing. Like remember when there was like that big hullabaloo in 2021 with the Palestine stuff? And I went and looked it up. This is a paragraph in a story about IGN's Palestine thing. The decision also drew the attention of one extremely popular former IGN personality, Kind of Funny co-founder Greg Miller, a person often known for taking off his shirt and eating chicken wings. Miller is not typically associated with the escalating mixture of video games and politics. He also used to work closely with far-right gaming commentator Colin Moriarty, who was pushed out of Kind of Funny in 2017 following criticism of a sexist tweet. What did that have to do with that? Like, why did you want to write that about like far-right video game commentator who was pushed out? I wasn't pushed out. I quit. I sold my shares. Like not interested in the facts at all. Little digs like this being written over and over again by these kinds of people matter and they mean something and they set precedents.
Yeah.
And they're unapologetic about it. And Patrick has written and said a lot of things about me in the past. Is it sad that he's jobless? Yes, but he doesn't belong in this industry writing about video games. He sucks. He should go work in some other industry. And so I don't feel bad for him at all. People that shamelessly go around and try to character assassinate and paint people a certain way and wedge people's names in and try to injure them in things that have nothing to do with them years after they're even remotely engaged in those particular companies or whatever, make things up about I was pushed out. I mean, go ask Kind of Funny if I was pushed out and they'll tell you that wasn't true.
Yeah.
That I quit. And like when you have no regard for facts. It's the same thing we feel about the Kotaku guys. Like it, in some way, it just couldn't happen to nicer people. And I wish Patrick the very best in his personal life and finding something else, but I'm thrilled that he's not writing about games anymore. He's out. And these guys are now, like in a cartoon, like the ship that's sinking and it sinks really slowly and like the mast is still above and like the characters like scrambling up the mast trying to be the last one that goes into the water. Like that's the games journalists now. These guys are clowns. And it's not going to last for much longer. And I make no apologies about that because they have not been good arbiters of this industry. They have not been friendly in any way. They have not been fair in any way. And then we're supposed to be sad that they're going away.
I'm going to feel slightly bad when someone no longer has a source of income. I don't wish that that's always the case for them, But I also do think there are people that do more harm than good, and I hope they find work elsewhere.
Yeah, I think that that's well said. And it's like, it doesn't have to be war, but a lot of these people made it that way because they thought they were they thought their whole model and everything about it was impenetrable, that things would never change. And they are one by one just falling off. And a lot of them will be gone permanently from this industry, or they'll do the inevitable jump to publishing because that's what they need to do to survive, or work at some developer, which is fine. Do whatever you want. But the sympathy that you and I are showing them by saying that is a lot more than they ever showed me.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
they didn't give a fuck about what they were doing to me and what they were contributing to for me. And so it's hard for me not to like have some level of like, well, bye, Patrick. Thanks for playing.